So I'm also an EMT, so this was kind of relevant for me to, because you guys call 911 and Stephen, and I'll be the one that shows up for you. So, which isn't always a good sign, right? But we'll cover that. And I guess the reason we call it rescue is because we do acknowledge that there's a lot of guys that did not do well marketing this year, okay? So if you're like one of the farmers, he said, I don't even want you to come out, Betsy, because I know you're going to judge me. And I said, no, I'm not going to judge, because we've all made mistakes. Marketing will never be perfect. There's no need to worry about that. And so let's see what we can do, okay? It's too late to look back and say we should have, we could have, there's things we should have done. We'll take a little look back, but mostly try to look forward. So this is me. We farm in Stephen. We have the seed company, and then I do the farm management. Josh, now if you notice his belt buckle, okay. So Josh is farm management, but does a lot with the horses.
Yeah, I'm involved in the National FFA. I help put on their national horse evaluation and get to judge horse shows kind of all over the country additionally to that. So that keeps me busy. And in addition, doing farm business management and marketing group based out of Moorhead, Minnesota.
Yeah, so we cover both ends of the valley. And then I do, of course, work in Thief River. And we got Ron here in Thief River and Moorhead. Is Greg gone?
He's around. He's talking with one of his students.
Okay. Oh, okay, you guys came together. Okay. He's got the keys. There are some of us on the North Dakota side as well, so just keep that in mind. So our to-do list for today, well, it's obviously not sell, because you guys haven't done that, right? That hasn't been on your to-do list for 2 years, okay? I've seen your books. We've seen your balance sheets. It's been a little slow to get some of this stuff sold, okay? So obviously sales. We kind of want to talk about interest expense. And I know we've talked about this before, but this is something new to crop marketing. We have the outlook for 2023 and then the hope for 2024. So that sheet of paper with all the colors on it, that's our 2024 numbers. Josh is going to go over that and answer your questions. And then we do, the break-even spreadsheet that's in front of you. So this is a text I got. I cannot say who sent me this. She asked that I did not say that, but she said this was her text to me. So stop rolling your soybean contracts. Apparently she's a grain buyer and has kind of struggled with you guys on making some of these decisions, right? So she wants to it's time to price them out. So this is a funny thing on Twitter the other day, or X, sorry. This was like a report done at the University of Illinois. Like, could any of you guys come up with this headline? Like, is there anything that's more obvious? Like, should we also say the sun will come up tomorrow? So I thought they found a significant relationship between capital cost and farmer-held inventory. Oh, really? Like, obviously there's a significant capital cost if you have crops in inventory. I just thought this was like probably one of the silliest headlines I've seen in a long time. So I think we all could have come up with that plan. So this is something, the cost of capital. And what I put in here is 8.5% interest. So just as a reminder, if you have soybeans in the bin today, actually as of yesterday, they were $12.38 is the cash price I found. And I agree. I want more than $12.38 as well. But if you're thinking you're going to hold till June, I highlighted June, just to break even on interest, it's $12.99. So you need $13 in June, and that's just going to cover your line of credit. That's it. You're not even making money. You're just breaking even. So if you guys are telling me that I want to hold soybeans, that's fine. But if you're thinking, I probably won't haul them out till next summer, things get busy in the winter, they're in a yard I don't blow, or it's covered in snow, $13 is only where you break even. So if you're going to hold soybeans, you better be hoping for $13.50, $14 for something, okay? Because that money is expensive sitting in the bin, all right? Even if you don't have a line of credit, you can get 5% in a money market pretty easily as well today. So this is something we have not had to deal with for quite a few years, right? We've had record low interest rates for many years. And what bothers me is that this kind of makes the spread between the haves and the have-nots that much wider, You know, I mean, the people that have the lines of credit are a lot of times some younger farmers, you know, they're not well established, and now this seems to be putting them kind of behind the ball as well. But I just don't know that this is fully accounted for. In farm management, we do have a line called operating interest. And so if you are in the farm management program, we do ask you break out the interest on your line of credit apart from the interest on your machinery loans and apart from your land loans. We want to separate everything out because we do want to know what you're going to have for interest expense only on your line of credit. And we do make the accrual adjustments as well. Maybe this year you pay it off in December, last year you didn't. But that operating interest per acre, I think, is going to be really interesting this year when we do our analysis books. You know, we sort everything from high to low, and there's going to be some significant differences in operating interest. Crop marketing is going to have a role in that. I think that's going to be an eye-opener for quite a few farmers this year. So this is another concern as I work with guys on their balance sheets, is how much do you have at risk? And you know, we do call it birthday crops, right? Has your crop celebrated a birthday on your balance sheet, okay? Congratulations, you're a year old, okay? Congratulations, you're 2 years old, all right? And that's, the only thing I'll take is if you have ryegrass, it's acceptable, okay? Ryegrass is the only thing that should be having a birthday on the balance sheet. I can't think of anything else that I really want to have a birthday. But as we sit down with guys this year, we found a lot of farmers still have 22 crop, potentially even 21 crop on their balance sheet. And that's a lot of risk. That is probably what scares me the most is, you know, the bottom, the rolling of the basis. Yeah, you locked in basis on some of your crop, but you haven't priced the future side of it. You're still essentially unpriced, and you've been rolling that thing for quite a while. So I'm okay. You know, farming is all about risk, but you got to manage the risk, and I think that's kind of the concerns right now with some crop marketing decisions, is that there isn't any risk management. So this is a slide that I stole from last year's presentation. So I usually present every year at Prairie Grains, and I copied this slide. This is exactly what we had last year at this time. Would anyone sell spring wheat for $9.01 today? I'm mad at myself too, because I mean I didn't sell everything at $9.01. Soybeans at $13.77. You know, that's actually not terribly far off. And then corn was $5.98. Okay, but you guys were all holding out for $6, right? Like we can't sell at $5.98. And so this was I just copied and pasted this from a year ago. But call dang it, we had $9.01 a year ago, and I don't know that we always know prices can go down. Did any of us foresee it dropping $7 down? We always joke about it. I didn't think it would actually happen. So as we're looking at things today, just keep in mind we could be $2 lower when I'm back here next year. I mean, the markets move. So this is this your marketing plan? Is this your 1997 retirement plan, right? If you hold on to these, it'll be worth a lot of money, okay? This made the headlines for quite a while, right? We all should have been investing in Beanie Babies until you shouldn't. Right now they're dog toy. I don't know what we would even use that for right now. But remember how everyone had their super valuable Beanie Baby that was really going to be the secret to them having a good retirement. So this should not be your marketing plan, all right? So one of the things we talk about, ask yourselves not why should I sell, ask why should I hold. Is there a reason that you should be holding grain today, all right? What reasons should we be holding grain? So let's look a little bit at crop marketing. We're going to go over the cost of production, when you need cash, and then also how much storage. I could not believe we ran out of storage this year. If you would have told me that on August 1st, that Betsy, your corn crop is going to be so big you were not going to have enough storage, I would have laughed at you. No, it's not. It looks spindly. It's short. We ran out of water. It is not a good crop. Turned out fine. I mean, I still can't understand where the crop came from. And had I known we were going to have that many bushels, I would have been more aggressive at selling. But instead, I had to deliver some to the elevator. So this is where this sheet comes out. If you guys want to take a look at that sheet in front of you, Josh can kind of go over some of this data.
You know, and I kind of want to add into the idea of the interest rate. I sat down with one of my farmers this last week, and we did an early 2024 projection just based off of how does 2024 look by itself, not looking at incoming inventories from 23 and working capital. Can 2024 just kind of support itself? And we did kind of a general, like, what if I sell all of my grain, and this is a corn, soybean, wheat farm, no additional crops. What if we sell all of it on December 31st versus what happens if we were to sell during harvest or right after harvest? And on his plan, it was about a $15,000 difference on interest cost for the fact of how if he waited till the end of December to sell all of his crops versus selling it, let's say, in September, selling in November, selling in December. So that interest price is becoming a bigger deal when you look at even the plans for 2024. So we're going to kind of go through that break-even cost production worksheet for you. Obviously, that's one of the things that we provide as farm business management, working with our farmers, putting together your financial packages, helping you with your lenders, looking at your projections for the next upcoming year. So these are preliminary early looks for 2024. So kind of where did these numbers come from? So obviously the farms that we work with and additional farms around Minnesota and farms in North Dakota provide their data, anonymously provide their data into the FinBin database. So I selected basically the Red River Valley of Minnesota and North Dakota for 2022. The 2023 numbers won't be updated till about April because we'll spend time in January, February, March getting those all compiled, reconciled, making sure everything's accurate and correct. So the people that submit that are farmers that are in the farm business management programs in those states, working with instructors like Betsy, Ron, myself, and Greg. So the early 2024 expenses, I did have a presentation. Randy Zimmerman from West Central Ag presented to my farmers in November, and he brought some initial numbers on fertilizer, chemicals, seed, kind of what they're seeing for their costs on the producer side. Additionally, I went in and pulled the 2022 data and compared just those crops, corn, soybeans, wheat, in our cases also sugar beets, sunflowers, barley, to the 2022 numbers to see if we were relatively close. So those adjustments were made for fuel and repairs. Betsy talked about interest. Right now, interest is part of the miscellaneous direct costs, is where operating interest would be in there. Your overhead expenses would be things like farm insurance. It would be your machinery depreciation, your intermediate interest, long-term interest costs, real estate taxes if you have owned land would be kind of buried in that. The one thing that's not on there is we did not include any labor and management because that's always a debate by what should be there. Obviously, you should be paying yourself something if you're farming to that, so that's not included in there because everybody has a different value for that. So the sheet that's handed out here, the prices that are put in there, those are the prices that we are using with our producers. They come from the FSA offices, put out planning prices for the upcoming year. So that $7 wheat, that $11.75 soybeans, that $4.70 corn, and then down the line is the numbers that they're going to use if you're doing any kind of plan. The majority of the banks and lending institutions also use those same planning price numbers. So that's the numbers that are going to go into your cash flow plan. Some banks have their own numbers and do use a little bit, but they tend to sometimes be even more conservative than what those numbers are. So additional assumptions, I kind of went back and looked at a 3-year and last year's trend for yields, knowing that obviously this year we have some yields in certain crops that are maybe a little bit below average. Wheat was maybe a little bit above than what kind of expectations were. The number that always kind of comes up is the land rent values. And obviously some of you are going to say, you know, I don't pay $160 rent for anything that I have. That's way too high because I'm in a different part of the valley or a different part of North Dakota or Minnesota. Obviously that number can fluctuate, but a lot of times the yield then would fluctuate somewhat in correlation to that. But that's kind of an average number. Obviously there's going to be people that are way higher than that. There's going to be some additional deals that are lower than that. But if we look at our 2022 data for that central part of the valley, that's pretty close to the average land rent that was spent. And then obviously we have that no labor and management cost that should be added on top of there. So do you want to earn $20 an acre, $25 an acre? What do you want to return to yourself for your labor and management? So early cost of production, so if you look at those numbers on the bottom, we're looking at corn at about $4.48. We're looking at beans at just under $11 at $10.93, and wheat just under $8 at $7.74. And again, that's based on those assumptions on the yields and the input prices that we have there. Again, obviously every farm isn't average, so you're going to have different numbers. That's why we really encourage our farms to know your numbers to help guide you to your cost of production. So just an FYI, as of yesterday, looking at the Chicago board, so at 3:20 p.m., we had 508 December 24 futures. If you are one that is going to hold and roll it out, it's 523. Again, if you just saw Betsy's example here, is the 15-cent carry really worth it? Beans, you can look from the November to the January. Again, it's 8 cents. That doesn't even cover your interest costs at that point. But $12.74. Spring wheat is $7.38. Going out to December, you pick up 12 cents at $7.50. So just kind of looking at that, we don't even hit our break even on the spring wheat. We could be selling at or above potential break even for most people on soybeans. And depending on what you can get for your local basis, you could be pretty close to the average break even as we look at corn prices. So there's two of them. The one that I shared with you is the FSA prices. Obviously, this was the prices with that 738, 1274, and 508. And realistically, the only difference is, you know, right now, if you sold and took a 55-cent basis on corn, you know, your break even, you're making $8 an acre versus this is showing $32. Your soybeans, it's showing a $51 return with prices as of yesterday versus the FSA planting price of $11.75 of $34. And both, you know, the FSA planting price and the actual price are relatively close right now for wheat. So basically you're losing about $46 to $50 an acre. And again, everybody's going to tweak and look a little bit different there, but that's some of the things that we're looking at for 2024 in the early look. Obviously, we'll have a better idea as some of our farms come in and get 23 numbers. The one thing I can say is comparison to 23 to 24, we are seeing a reduction in fertilizer expense, which is good. But some of our other expenses are probably going up in relation to it. Maybe fuel's down just a little bit in that regard as well. So I'm going to give it back over to Betsy.
So, you know, when we met a year ago, if you were here, and 23 wheat was 901, it was because we had a carrying charge, okay? Quite often in the wheat and corn market, there's money to be made if you plan ahead. And so, for example, we have March futures today for spring wheat is 7.13. At harvest, it's 7.38, okay? Harvest of 24. I'm not real thrilled with 7.38, okay? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that is not, you're not making money at that level. It's not real exciting. What I want you to kind of be more aware of is that, you know, we do have a 25-cent premium at this time from March to harvest. And so if you did place an order, you know, 7.85 or something, there is a little bit of a carrying charge for spring wheat. It still does pay to plan ahead, all right? There is still that carrying charge that they're going to pay you a little bit more for fall of 24 at this time, okay? So it doesn't hurt to have orders placed, okay? That's one thing you need to have out there. Hopefully, you know, you guys will, you know, be on a beach in Mexico or something and your price will get hit. Wouldn't that be the perfect thing to come home and find out you actually sold wheat for close to $8? That would be the dream. Not sure that's going to happen, but it would be wonderful. In corn right now, or harvest of 25, we don't have a Minneapolis futures going out to 25. There's nothing that's traded as of yet. Corn, the futures today, this was actually yesterday, 480, 508 for harvest of 24, and 507 for harvest of 25. So you get a little bit of a premium for planning ahead for 24. I'm not sure 25 looks real enticing. It's okay. Soybeans, we get 13.26. We actually have an inverse. We're at 12.74 for next fall, and then 12.40 for November of 25. So just keep that in mind of what you can potentially sell for today. Like Josh said, we are really close to making money on, well, you're not making a lot of money, but you're not losing a lot of money. How about that on corn and soybeans for next year? Spring wheat still has a little ways to go. This is one of my favorite headlines of all time. If you guys don't know who that guy is, Sam Bankman-Fried. I think, is there a movie coming out? I know there's a book. There might be a movie coming out too. But he wasn't even trying to manage risk. He said that. Well, I wasn't even trying to manage risk, okay? This was like billions of dollars that he lost at his, I'm gonna say it was almost like a made-up company. I'm not sure what they did. They had a lot of Super Bowl ads. There was a lot of hype. And risk management was not part of his plan. And now he's sitting in a jail cell, okay? So we're not gonna put you guys in jail for not managing your risk. That's, you only hurt yourself for your own operation. But this was the Wall Street Journal headline. And yeah, wasn't even trying to manage risk. I mean, billion-dollar company, this still amazes me. This story is still baffles me how people thought that he had a functional business and how they could cook the books, okay? So whatever mistakes you make in marketing, you're not losing billions, okay? At least you got that going for you. You're not gonna lose billions of dollars. So we always talk about when to sell, okay? When do you guys know what to sell? It's December. You guys are all out there shopping for fertilizer prices, right? You've maybe prepaid some fertilizer. You've bought your seed. I got a lot of guys that have bought Roundup already for the year. We've already locked in some inputs. So that sheet that Josh handed out, we have a good chunk of that sheet already figured out. Now we don't have yields, right? We don't know what yields are gonna be, but we already have a pretty good handle on what your inputs are gonna be. And there is nothing wrong with selling 24 stuff today. You can absolutely sell 2024 crop today, especially since you know what you're gonna have for your inputs. I had one farmer, 2 years ago, he had to write out a significant check to his elevator. Did not have the bushels. And he was pretty chill about it. I was impressed. I go there this year, he's well over $9 on his wheat. I mean, he's doing just fine. And he said, I got to make sure I'm always doing forward contracting. I don't change things from one year to the next. So he's going to have a great year. I was pretty happy for him. Locked input prices, crop insurance guarantee, we talk about that all the time. And that was this farmer that had to write out this big check. He said, well, my crop insurance was more than it was supposed to be too. Because prices went up. It was 21. Prices went up, so he had more of a crop insurance guarantee. And then we just kind of looked at the spreads a little bit. I showed you guys the carrying charges, and you do get a premium for planning ahead, okay? There is a premium for planning ahead. And then basis, so I feel like maybe we've done a disservice to you guys when it comes to basis, okay? We've talked about how important basis is, okay? And it is. But just because you lock in a basis doesn't mean you're done marketing your crop, all right? I feel like maybe we've given you the wrong impression that you've said, oh, I have a basis fix on that. Oh, that's fine, but that's not gonna get you anywhere, okay? There has to be a second step. And I got a lot of farmers that are bragging to me about their basis fix contract, and that's great. They're 10 cents better than what it is today, but they've lost $2 on the futures market, all right? We gotta make sure we're managing that risk correctly. So yes, we want to manage basis risk, but just because you've managed basis risk does not mean that you've managed your overall risk. So I put basis on there. I want you guys to monitor it, but I also don't think it's the most important thing out there.
The other thing I think that I had a farmer come in this last week and tell me a story about, he had a hedge to arrive contract at his elevator, and he said they had just changed kind of the guidelines, so how well you read all the specific small details in there. And he goes, typically his other elevator, when they get close to the end of the contract, they'll give him a call and say, do you want to lock it in today or do you want to roll it to the next month? And his whole plan was to roll it because he had a good price and he was going to roll because he didn't want to deliver until spring because of drying and the capacity, not having to haul in the winter and all of that stuff. And he found out later that the contract basically said that, if you hadn't priced it by October 25th, we're going to apply basis as of that day. And so he got a pretty poor basis. Luckily, his cash price or his futures price was pretty high, but he had hoped to gain some things. So really understand if you're locking into some of those contracts, some of the minor details that could affect that. Now, obviously, I think it would have been nice of the elevator to call him and say, hey, it's expiring today. What do you want to do? But they said, nope, our basic contract is if you don't price it by that time, we're just going to set the price for you, which I said is a little shady because what if they all of a sudden decide to raise basis 20 more cents on that last day, knowing they have 100,000 bushels sitting out there on farms that are unpriced, and they just take that. So just to be careful about that. Obviously, those contracts, we follow the carry in our marketing group that I work with. Right now, if you have your grain unpriced, you're hoping to gain the carry, the roll cost, going from December to, let's say, July, and in corn, it's about an upper 30 to 40 cent carry right now. But if you look at the cost to carry, that's pretty much your interest costs. And like Betsy said, I think the other part of it too is, maybe you're one of the lucky few that has no operating expense right now. You have no interest cost there, but there's the opportunity cost of what you could additionally be doing with that money. So there is still a cost to it. Is it really returning you as much as some other investment could be? So
here's a couple deadlines I want you guys to think about, okay? The markets are going to be closed Monday, December 5th and Monday, January 1st, which means we have 3-day weekends. And normally in the summer, right, we all know 4th of July is chaos, right? We know the markets are going to move over the 4th of July because we have all this weather. Well, so we're going to have 3-day weekends coming up here. And I think the markets are still going to be volatile because we have South American weather that we are watching like a hawk. And so I know it's not our weather market, but I do anticipate these 3-day weekends could really cause some huge price movements. The other issue is this USDA report on January 12th. I don't want to say I guarantee, but I am quite certain we are going to have a huge movement on January 12th. This is a big, big report that comes out. This is going to be the final estimate for 23 corn and soybean yields. Okay, this is when USDA says this is what we got and we're not changing it again. And that's going to be a huge day. The market's going to be watching that very, very carefully. If we get a good run up prior to that report, I think you got to be pricing something before that report. All right, so the problem with USDA reports too, so the report can come out at 11 and be totally bullish. The market will rally 40 cents and then crash back down again. We've all seen USDA reports. I'm worried that Friday, January 12th is going to be a very, very volatile day. So if you have 3,000 bushels of soybeans left and that's all you got left, sure, leave them unpriced. You don't have a huge risk. If you have all of your 2023 soybeans in the bin and you are unpriced on January 12th, I would be sweating. I don't know how you can do it. That's a very, very stressful time for me. You have a lot of money at risk on that day. So to me, these 3 dates, so keep in mind like December 26th, January 2nd, and then that January 12th, we do have some very volatile days coming ahead in the markets. And only you can determine what your risk management is, but I'm telling you, I would be nervous. If you have bins full of old crop, unpriced, if you haven't sold anything for 24, those days are going to make me pretty nervous. And I think we could have some opportunities.
I think that's where some of the value of having orders in, even on days like that, because you physically can't call fast enough if a price hits that you like and it's down 20 cents by the time you call and get that in. So having those orders in, even if it never fills, you have that chance to it. I have one farmer that he's put some crazy orders out there, and at one time he was the highest sale price at the local elevator for the entire year because he put this crazy order in, it hit on one day, and he was the only one sold on it. And so he kind of brags that, I sold at this price, on wheat, it was wheat, and nobody else got that price. Well, because he put orders in, and obviously don't put them in and forget that you have them and then figure that's the plan and it never hits, and then you're sitting 2 years later with no price grain. But on days like that, I think there's some value of having some orders in case we see a rally that, again, a lot of times it's really short-lived when that happens. Right now we're seeing the market reacting to predictions of rainfall in South America. Not actually the rainfall falling, it's the weather forecast is changing. And so we're going to continue to see that. And so if rain does fall, then that was already expected. If it doesn't fall, then it's going to swing back the other way. So we are seeing a lot of volatility there. Some of the early projections for next year, I think the other talk is of a lot more soybean acres. So what does that do to soybean prices for 2024? Maybe that boosts corn prices and pulls wheat up with it, but maybe it also pulls bean prices down, and maybe you wish you would have priced some of that, $13 futures on soybeans.
Yeah, keep in mind those dates. And so I know, I think about a year ago, we had our final beans left, okay? And we decided, January 1st, they were worth like 15 bucks. So I called the place where they were going, and the gal was gone. And whoever answered the phone's like, well, I can get you $14.94. I'm like, son of a gun, they're over 15 bucks everywhere else. This person doesn't know what's going on. And I said, you know what? Fine, just take them. I was just mad, right? I feel like I'm getting screwed out of this, but I wasn't getting my 15 that I wanted. Well, thank heavens I did not, my stubborn Norwegian was repressed, and I still made the sale. I always preach, don't be obsessed about a couple cents, and I thought, oh, dang it, Betsy, just get them priced and get rid of them. And I think I couldn't be happier to get rid of those stupid things last year. So keep an eye on those dates. I would have orders placed. One of the struggles that we have this year is determining where to place our orders, right? How far can we rally? And the problem is the markets have not crashed, okay? There has been no crash in the markets. It's been a slow bleed, right? It's not like we just boom, woke up one day and wheat was limit down. It's like 10 cents down, 2 cents up, 8 cents down, 4 cents. Those charts are about as boring as they get. it is a very gentle slope down. And so trying to use technical indicators to look at how far things are going to retrace, or look at some of those technical indicators, is very difficult because we really haven't seen big ups and downs in the markets. The overall trend has just been a nice little gentle downslope, right? It's the kind of thing you want on a bike ride, right? You just want a nice gentle downslope where you don't ever have to pedal. In grain marketing, it's the worst thing in the world, right? We want to see big upswings. So trying to determine where to price those contracts, I've tried to look at the charts, and I'm really struggling to find where to put a good price. I can't really find a good technical indicator. You can throw moving averages on there. You can do all these other things. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that you just got to throw a dart. I really cannot come up with a better plan for where to place my price targets. So part of it depends on how much you have, all right? So if you have 100% of your wheat, maybe 125 because you still got some 22 bushels on the farm, you might have to set those price targets a little lower, okay? If you're down to your last couple thousand, what the heck? Let's go $8 wheat out there. We've never had, winters seem like they're more exciting now, right? We're watching South America more. We're seeing more price movements. I think there is the potential for things to move on these 3 days. And so the days after, the 26th, the 2nd, and then the 12th. So just kind of keep an eye. I think these are going to be critical times to make sales. And if you are going to be busy, you place those orders ahead of time, right? If you're a Canadian and you got Boxing Day, right, on the 26th, if you're going to celebrate your national holiday, then make sure that thing is priced ahead of time, all right? If you think on January 2nd you're going to be busy that day, get your order placed ahead of time because there won't be time to watch those markets.
Yes, the end of December, the last 2 weeks we have with the holidays in there,
it's traditionally
a quiet market?
It's not necessarily, okay, it's quiet because there's low volume, but if something happens, there's nobody trading. So you can see huge swings because there's nobody in the markets at that time. Everybody's taken the time off, and if we get a huge rainstorm in South America, then things can crash. If we get excessively hot weather in South America, things will take off. So volume-wise, there's not a lot of people there, but that can lead to some huge price movements if something big were to happen on those days. And then you add in the 3-day weekends. I am optimistic that we are going to see some good moves on those days. But if you're sitting there holding out, well, geez, I could get 901 next year, you're not getting 901 for your wheat, okay? Never say never, but seriously, never. It's not going to, I really don't think it's going to happen. So these are the kind of those prices we've already looked at for next year. I am not excited about 743 wheat. That is just a tough pill to swallow at this time. But yeah, I mean, if we get closer to 8, if we get 780 maybe even, that's a good first place to start. You know, there was many years farming when all we did was try to minimize our losses. I mean, you guys all remember those years. It's not if we're going to make money, it's how can we lose the least this year. And it might not hurt to get a few of those sales started where you're not going to lose a lot of money.
Have you established your 2024 drop dead price levels?
Yeah, I haven't yet. No. I haven't yet.
You might want to explain what your drop dead.
So my drop dead price is, like let's say wheat, for example. If wheat hits 901, it's all gone. Right? Is that what you're talking about, my drop dead? Like, I will, you know, may lightning strike me dead if I don't sell all of my wheats at 901. And you kind of have to have that in the back of your mind, like this is really a phenomenal price. And it's, I mean, a year ago we were at 901, and now, like, may lightning strike me dead if I don't sell everything at 901. I'm not sure it'd be 901 yet. I don't know. I got to think about that. So whenever you're feeling bad about your crop marketing, this is a headline I saved from a couple years ago. This was as of 2/28/22. Okay? This was you actually paid money to Cargill to market your grain for you. You gave them a lot of money to do this. And they were at 4.28 right at that time. The market was close to 7. And Cargill had effectively sold your grain at 2.28. So the only thing worse than doing a bad job at marketing is paying someone to do a bad job at marketing, right? If I'm going to screw this up, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm sure as heck aren't going to pay somebody to do it. So I think we'll always kind of remember this. This was a bad deal. They had a lot of webinars and stuff trying to explain their position, but essentially they were buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling over and over. They didn't just sell, they re-owned, they did everything, and they lost several dollars a bushel on your crop on your behalf. So it was not good. And I think this will always go down as one of the biggest, a big error in grain marketing, because you had to pay someone to do a bad job. So this is our summary of who we are in the state of Minnesota. As we said, there are North Dakota people as well. One thing I do want to bring up that's not marketing related, if you are from Minnesota and you're not familiar with the beginning farmer tax credit, that I think is something everyone should look up. Are they going to run out of money for 23? Do we have enough for 23? Have you heard an update? We do have enough for 23.
For the tax credit.
Yeah, yep. Minnesota did change the tax credit, and it actually, we might run out in 24. So if you have any interest in that tax credit and you're from Minnesota, that might be something you need to work on sooner rather than later. And I don't know what our tally is going to end up being this year.
Just a quick summary of it is if a beginning farmer is working with a landowner, the landowner themselves can get a tax credit for land that they sell to them, rent to them, machinery that they sell to them, rent to them. If you crop share, all of those things, you know, can be up to, it's 5, 10, or 15% of where they would actually get a physical tax credit for working with a beginning farmer. The beginning farmer themselves can get a tax credit based on the tuition towards tuition that they would pay into the program. They have to be enrolled in some sort of beginning farmer management programming, but it's a pretty good opportunity. I have some students that essentially are using it as a recruiting tool to go out and ask people to rent land and say, I can get you a 10% tax credit on the land you rented. They did open up one eligibility. It used to be you couldn't have anybody like kind of the direct lineup, like parents, grandparents, you know, couldn't sell to you, they couldn't get credit or rent to you. If your parents, grandparents, or whatever sell equipment or land to you, I think, or land, I think only. If they sell land to you, they can get the tax credit, but not rent land to you. So there is an additional credit for them that they just opened up. That's part of the reason why Betsy said the money might run out. But only land sales, not any of that. But it's a good opportunity for beginning farmers to kind of get a foothold on the door, but also the asset owners to have some credit to work with the beginning farmer as well.
Yep. So if you're not familiar, I mean, you can talk to us afterwards, but just be aware that in 2023, the number went up significantly because they opened up the parent-child relationship. And it looks like in 24, it's going to be even higher. So before you could submit it on November 1st and you'd still be fine, there is some concern that there won't be enough money next year for that program. So just keep that in mind. So questions from you guys about crop marketing, or what, anyone got a really good idea on what to do? I wish I had, coming up with the price targets is really hard because the charts are just it's just a general trend lower. We can't say like I want to go back to the high we had, on October 1st. I mean, it's just been a slow bleed.
One of the things that we do with our farms typically this time of year is we do an updated balance sheet. So where are you financially sitting? What's your crop inventory values, changes to machinery, equipment, land, things like that? What do you have for payables, receivables? But we put in, for the unpriced grain, we put in that today's value. So a lot of times we look at that, and I had one farmer look at it and he goes, well, I've got some pretty good working capital, so if I sell at today's prices, I can protect my working capital. It's a little higher than it even was a year ago. So he almost set that as kind of his floor and then set his targets up a little bit above that. And if I can get 10, 15 cents more on each of my grains, I know that I've protected my working capital, and he kind of set a new floor to say, I don't want to sell below these levels for that. So sometimes that's a looking at your own situation. Then goes back to Betsy, how much risk do you have out there? You got 10% of your crop left or 100%, so that somebody that maybe has 100% selling some of that grain now to protect some of that working capital that's still there, going back to what kind of Ron and Greg talked about is critical, I think, in being able to protect and allow your farm to have some buffer as we potentially head into some lower price going forward, at least in the short term. It's looking like lower prices.
With fundamentals out the door on the side, we're coming off of Ukraine war. I mean, why were we $9 last fall? The hangover from the war and the big crop. I mean,
Well, and we still thought that there was it's sad to say, we're used to war now, right? Like, we thought taking Ukraine out of the situation was going to just completely throw off the world wheat market. We were never going to produce enough wheat again, right? If you remove Ukraine and Russia, we were never going to produce enough wheat. And so I feel bad for my husband this year because I doubted his ability to produce a crop, right? I'm like, oh, we got nothing out there. This is embarrassing. It's so bad. Why do I doubt him, right? We pulled it off. We got a crop. Or Ukraine, Russia, they're still harvesting. Like, they're making it work in wartime. And so that premium is completely gone. And then we've had good crops around the world for wheat, especially this year. Our corn crop turned out much better than we anticipated. We had so much risk premium a year ago, and we've completely wiped that out, unfortunately. So it's not like stocks have skyrocketed or anything. The fundamentals, yes, they're a little bit more bearish, but we've really taken out a lot of risk premium out of the markets. We've gotten used to the new normal, unfortunately. Yeah.
But the trouble is, there's nobody out there buying our wheat.
No.
That's the bad part of this deal. When you say at $9 wheat, then it went down to 8, and everybody in the room said that's going to go back up to 8.50, but it didn't. It kept going down. And then when I went out and looked at our yield, just like what you did, where I live.
Yep.
It was 42 or 52 bushels.
Yep.
I talked to friends of mine north. I said, what do you think you're doing? He said the same thing. And then they get to the fall, and it's just
I know.
and then all of a sudden the prices just keep going down.
Mm-hmm.
But the trouble is nobody wants to buy our wheat product.
No,
That's the bad part.
we are really struggling.
And I don't know, how can you optimistic because the world supply of wheat was way down.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at that, we looked at the crop, and it just kept going down.
The only thing I'm somewhat optimistic for is that spring wheat is a kind of a unique thing. If we had winter wheat right now, I'd maybe be a little bit more nervous. Winter wheat is a feed, a lot of times can be a feed. It competes with corn. So the only reason I have a bit of optimism is because spring wheat, you need spring wheat, right? You can't bake a good loaf of bread with winter wheat. Like, spring wheat almost has like a inelastic demand. We always need the same amount of spring wheat every year. So that's like the only thing that I'm kind of banking on. But yeah, it's a bit of a struggle.
He kind of has the
Same thing, yeah. Yeah,
How long till Russia gets another drought? You know, they're
Oh.
in like Canada latitude or north. And, you know, northern plains, I'm sure they have the same drought possibilities as we do. Any thoughts on that?
so the bad news with wheat is that everyone grows it. And so like, I mean, South America, you could really bank, or soybeans, we got South America and us. There's nobody else in the game. Wheat, well, India's harvesting this week. Australia's harvesting the next. I mean, wheat is like a year-round thing. Wheat is really tough to, I mean, besides the Ukraine situation, wheat's been, it's probably one of the least volatile things.
But Russia is the killer right now.
They are, yeah. No, they are.
So it's going to depend on what they do. They're the ones pumping out all the wheat. So until they drop, you know, with a drought or freeze or whatever they're
Yep.
going to do, that's going to really determine our exports.
I know. And if I was an expert on Russian affairs, I'd be somewhere else than here, right? Yeah, we could figure that out. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing too? We're gonna spend $225 million to put development of a 50-mile railway line out of Ukraine. And $225 million will give them for that. Amazing.
I know. Helped out their wheat exports, though, didn't it?
A week ago, Chicago wheat hit a 3-month high,
Yes.
and now it's gone the other way.
Yeah. So that's interesting because there's a national advisor that said it's time to sell wheat. So I had a couple of farmers call, Betsy, we got to sell wheat. We just got the alert. And I said, no, that's winter wheat. Like, that's not us, right? I mean, winter wheat is, I said, they're basing that based off of what Chicago's doing. And the Chicago-Minneapolis spread used to be totally predictable, right? We knew what it was going to be. Now Minneapolis and Chicago, I mean, 2 years ago, Chicago was higher than Minneapolis. Now we're $2, or not quite $2. We went to $2 higher than Chicago. That spread has been so erratic lately. So I used to bank on the spread. I would actually sell Chicago wheat a lot of times if the spread was too narrow, sell Chicago and then roll it to Minneapolis when the spread got back to normal. I don't do that anymore because it's become unpredictable. And so yeah, we had Chicago wheat, had a great rally, everything looked great, and then yeah, it was gone in a heartbeat. So I no longer sell my spring wheat in Chicago with the plan to roll it because it's just become so unpredictable. It worked really well for many years, and now I have to admit that play is gone. I don't have that option anymore.
Any more questions for Josh or Betsy? Otherwise, I have a quick little.
China made 3 large purchases of wheat last week. I know they haven't taken delivery yet, but how many large purchases would it take to turn the market around?
You know, it would take quite a bit. And the problem with China is once again, the unpredictability, right? I mean, there's been years they've been huge buyers of, we know they're always buying soybeans, but their wheat is hit or miss. We don't know exactly what they're going to do. And so we got to kind of monitor what are they buying from Australia as well. Like, I mean, are they buying more wheat overall, or are they switching some of their purchases? I don't see that helping us in the near term. I'm just a little skeptical about what they might be doing. So it's been fun to watch, but I'm not so sure that I would bank on Chinese purchases to help out the wheat market at this time.
Well, they're a lot cheaper for their exports, so that's part of the battle of getting ours out of the U.S. is that it's cheaper to get Russian wheat. Like basically, yeah, right. And obviously there is advantages if China were to come in and consistently do large purchases of wheat over a longer period of time and take delivery. Yes, I think it potentially could move the wheat market, but I think it's yet to be seen.
Yeah.
I think it's got to become
Hasn't
realized.
happened yet, but there is. Yeah, we got to keep an eye on it, I guess.
It's the one crop that has the largest ending stocks carryover, though, too. So, I mean, that's the thing is it needs a lot more demand or decrease in production to really shrink it up versus beans is the tightest
Yeah,
one.
beans
so
is
beans,
actually pretty tight.
some big purchases from China, some more purchases of soybeans could really move the soybean market in a short period of time.
What about transitioning away from the US dollar? Some of these countries aren't trading that dollar.
They're trying to, but how effective have they been? I mean, I know that they announced they want to use a different currency, but realistically, I think everything is still kind of tied back to the US dollar indirectly. So they're trying, right? They're trying to say that the US dollar is not the global currency, but I don't think it's been real effective yet. Yeah.
I was at a little marketing meeting in Fergus Falls, Minnesota here a while back, and the speaker was trying to find out the crowd, and he says, how many wheat farmers in here? And myself and a couple of people did this because we don't grow much wheat down in that part. And he walked over and he says, where did you go to school? I says, Battle Lake, Minnesota. Failed math class, didn't you?
Yeah, I know.
And I said, whoa, just stop it. I said, we also have a small business. We make small square bales and sell them for decorations and that. He said, exercise plan for your wife.
There you go. Yes. Yep.
So that was it. Any more questions? If not, basically, this kind of is the end of the session.
Argentina devalued their currency here a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the market fell on a bit.
It did.
Was that based on what Argentina did, or, I mean,
I think Argentina had a big role in that. Yeah, because not suddenly now, I mean, they're
Argentina didn't have a crop of beans last year. I mean, the bean market can't fluctuate because of Argentina beans.
yeah, I mean, it will affect it though. I mean, that kind of changes the whole global dynamic. I mean, Argentina appears to have a decent crop this year though. I mean, we think they're going to harvest something in the next couple of months, and now if they devalue their currency, it makes it that much cheaper for China to come in there. Soybeans are goofy because we really have tight stocks of soybeans. Like, we do not have any soybeans left. We are down to bare minimum. And everyone just assumes it's fine because Argentina and Brazil are going to come in and take away all of our export sales. So soybeans it's a unique market. We can operate with very low carryings or very low stocks, and no one seems to care. And then you add in Argentina devaluing their currency, which makes them that much more competitive as far as price. And yeah, then we had we always hope markets go up this week because then you guys are in a better mood. But yeah, Tuesday we looked at the markets and went, oh.
I'm hearing a lot of pessimism in the room.
I know, right?
You know, the hard part about there too is in some of the South American countries, they would rather have beans in the bin than actually sell them based on so I mean, realistically, that some of that is that even if they had a smaller crop, they might still have beans in the bin from a year ago or more, because to them, they would rather keep, the beans are worth more than the cash that they could get for them. So obviously that's part of the factor too, is if by changing it, does that mean they're more willing to sell their beans and open up the bin doors? So.
Now, our interest rate calculation would be an inflation calculation, and if we were doing this in Argentina, right? Like, don't hold your beans because they're just you could cash them in today and your cash will be worth less, half as much, in June when you, yeah. So dribble your beans out as you need them, yeah.